And good morning, everybody. You're listening to the Arwen Lewis radio show. You just heard a few songs by LUX Lawless, my very special guest today. She is an up and coming artist based out of East Los Angeles, and LUX Lawless is Lydia McIntosh's solo project. And she's here with her live band today with Trey and also Koala. Trey is playing drums and Koala is on bass. He has a beautiful acoustic bass guitar that he brought. And so anyway, you just heard when we took you out to break, you heard the recording of LUX Lawless's song Post. And when we brought you back in, you heard her song Static. And then the three of them just played a beautiful song called Bled that you heard live in the studio. And so, Lydia, I thought we could talk about really quickly your three releases that you've put out so far. You've got two EPs and one full-length album. Why don't you tell me about the titles of each EP and the album that you created and how you chose the titles first?
Yeah, so kind of, I wouldn't say I'm a wordsmith, but I'm like a history junkie. And so I really like Latin and going back to the roots and finding the roots of things. And so when it came to the EPs, it's really, so every song that we've created in studio, it's supposed to be as if it's a flower. And so I had the intention of like rearranging and making each EP its own bouquet.
Beautiful.
And I'm really inspired by different seasons. So originally I'm from Missouri, and there are certain days where it's like you're driving and you can feel like the bitter cold hit your face, and you can feel like the heat from your car, and like you smell like the decay of leaves from fall. You know, it's like there, it's just very like visceral. And so I released each EP for a different season.
Okay.
And with Vespera, like it's a constellation, it's a star.
Beautiful.
It's a star placement, right? And so with that EP, there was there's a few things from my past, more like on the familial side,
Okay.
that I wanted to speak to, but I'm pretty cryptic when it comes to things with certain songs and certain topics. And so, you know, just kind of saving face for anyone that may or may not be in my family line. I just kind of put it into the constellation and like what it represents. And to be honest, I was like, I forgot what the definition of Vespera was, but I really liked it when I read it. So I have to, you know, bring out my dictionary again. But yeah, so with Lumina, it's similar. It's more like dealing with shadow side, right? So I work with a lot of like Jungian psychology, so doing what's called shadow work. So it's really just tapping into like where your triggers are, but from a space of like your subconscious and seeing like what's running patterns that sometimes we might not be aware of. And when I was journaling, I was also jotting down lyrics just intuitively. And I was like, wow, like Lumina is going to go towards anything that's like shadow work related.
Okay.
They're both based out of therapy. Well, yeah, it's all therapy work. So
that's where the best start comes from.
Right. So that's where the EPs are at. And then Spectra, I believe in ghosts and I've had my own experiences with things. And Spectre, it's different ways of spelling it. It's all the same thing. It's an apparition. And I kind of like the definition of an apparition better than like a ghost. It just sounds more alluring. But then also like I chose to give it a feminine space too, right? Because it's masculine is feminine. And there's something to tie it together. But I lived in a lot of like haunted spaces when I was living in Texas and in Missouri. And I wanted to give the haunts that I experienced a space to breathe and live and be heard also. And so a lot of the songs on that album were created when I was like singing to console the spirits in the hallway. Yeah. Like I sound insane saying it, but they were scary. So I was like, maybe I'll just feed the beast like with some songs and it will calm down. So Frostbitten is around like one of the first places I lived in and like speaking to that entity. And Chalk is about the things that I encountered when I was living in Galveston. And they're not all to do with apparitions, but some of them it's also relating to old loves or like who we used to be and leaving that behind as if it's, as if it's dead, right? Yeah. So it's like snakes shed their skin. It's like allowing that to kind of breathe, but still honoring the ghost of like who you were when you were with certain people or in different situations.
And you know what? Like it ends up being a catharsis in the end, right?
Yeah.
Like you've transformed by the end, by the time you're done listening to that particular piece of work. And I really felt like that. And it's very hauntingly beautiful, speaking of haunting and things like that. And your vocals, they're very airy, and I don't want it not ghostly, but almost, like there's you it's somehow, I don't know how you do this with your voice, but it just floats through everything, which is a really beautiful quality to have. And I want to talk about that when we come back from break. And so, yeah, I want to talk about how you developed your voice because it's very unique and nobody sounds like you. So thank you for composing and putting all this music together. And also thank you to Trey and Koala for coming to help and play the songs today.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to take you out to break now, and then we'll bring you back in. We're going to be taking you out to break with LUX Lawless's song Chalk, and that's featuring her producer, Matt McJunkins. And then we'll bring you back in from break with the song Dusk by LUX Lawless. That's also featuring Matt McJunkins and Nick Perez. And you can find out more about LUX Lawless on Instagram at LUXLAWLESS_official. That's LUXLAWLESS_official. And also look up the band on Spotify and YouTube. And I'm Arwen Lewis. You're listening to the Arwen Lewis Radio Show, and we'll be right back.